Matt from Fab here. Today's video, I'm going to be making a steering column mount, but I'll start the video with the cock-up of the week. As you can see, got the engine bay all painted, looking good, finished, and I've added these mounts which are for a rose joint. These two outer ones go down to the edge of the subframe. These two inner ones go to the engine. So I ordered a whole load of rose joints because I needed like 16 for all the different bits that I needed, and I was wanting to get this finished and painted. So I looked at the place where you buy the rose joints. It gives you the dimensions. So I made a little spacer up to the dimension of the rose joint, which was 10 mil for the rose joint. So I made an 11 mil spacer to give, you know, room for paint and for it to sort of squeeze up. The rose joints just turned up today, and I read the chart wrong. They're actually 12 mil, so I needed a 13 mil spacer in these. So none of the rose joints fit. I can't even look at that at the moment. So instead, we're going to get on with the steering column. So I've got it mocked up where it needs to be. This is the original steering column, which you're not allowed to lengthen. I've got a UJ on the bottom of it, and then that's how much spacer I'll need to get the steering wheel where I want it. Obviously, you've got a boss that sits on here, which takes up almost half of this, and then I may have some kind of quick release device or just a spacer to take up the rest of it. The other options are I could get a more dished wheel to take up some of that, but that's not an issue. I can sort that out somehow. The reason I'm so far back is there's a minimum measurement that you're allowed. I think it's 300 mil from this edge of that box to your pedals. You're not allowed the pedals any further back than that. And then obviously my seat's then quite far back, so the steering wheel has to be pretty far back. A couple of benefits: obviously it's better to get your weight further back in the car. The other thing is it's much safer to be further back in the car in a really heavy frontal impact. If your feet are right on the bulkhead down there, then you know that your feet and legs are the first thing that's getting crushed in. I rummaged through my random drawer of bearings and stuff and managed to find a 7/8 bearing, which is same as that, slides on there nicely. So I need to make something to house the bearing, and then I'm going to make a bracket that will come off of here with some sort of up and down adjustment, maybe a little bit of side to side adjustment as well, just so I can get the wheel exactly where I want it. And also because this isn't the seat I'm going to be using when I start racing, I have to have a brand new in-date seat. So I'll get that when I'm literally ready to go. So there may be a little bit of a difference in the seat. So I want to be able to make sure I can move the wheel a little bit to accommodate for that. So I'm going to start off by making a little housing for this. I've been filming on my phone. For some reason some of the video clips won't upload, so I've lost a bit of footage of me making this. All I did was just mill it to the right size rectangle and then use that to scribe around it, and then just clamped it in different increments around and milled it off to get it close, and then just finished it off with a file and then cleaned it up on the belt sander. So this is the standard mini column, which normally has this slotted on the end of there, and then it's welded around this edge. So if you cut this weld off, which I did it on the lathe, but you could cut that off with an angle grinder if you're careful not to cut into the shaft. Then you can just hammer that off the end, and you're left with splines which match the steering rack. And those splines happen to be the same as a Mark II Escort UJ, which you can get these cheap enough. I had one knocking around. The only thing I had to do was just round the edge of that off, because it was catching on the floor where the rack comes through, because this is obviously a little bit smaller, uses a smaller bolt. This is using an M8 bolt, it's a bit bigger. But I had to grind a little bit in there for the anyway, that does go on there. So yeah, that's that. My workshop camera has died, so I've been using the phone, which the footage is actually pretty good, but the sound is a bit muffled, and given that I'm a bit of a mumbler anyway, it's not ideal, but I'll get another camera set up sorted soon. That's my steering bracket done. So I set it in the middle, sat in there, got it exactly where I wanted it. The steering wheel is exactly central to the seat, and then I've got little spaces either side. Those are 7mm, so I've got 14mm of adjustment here, which does move the wheel quite a bit side to side, and I've got loads of up and down. If I want to move the seat up or down, I can get it exactly where I want it. The only thing I would do differently is this bearing in here is not the best type of bearing. I used it because I thought, you know, it'll make the steering really nice and smooth and turn really freely. But there's no room for any angles. Like, really, you need a spherical bearing in there. And then if this, like on this setup, the column's pretty much dead straight, so it doesn't matter. But when I was moving it around to try and position it, it would like pinch up tight if I moved it side to side, if you know what I mean. So if this shaft was running off a little bit, that type of bearing really wouldn't have worked. It's only worked because I'm sat right far over towards the middle of the car, so the shaft is like almost dead straight. So so now I just need to sort out my steering wheel boss situation. Right, so I've found a way to fix the cock up. So I've made that little spacer, which is the same size as the rose joint, with a flat ground on it. And what I've been doing is warming these up, warm the paint up so they don't crack, bending these open enough so I can get that in, and then just bolting it down tight, and it, you know, bends it round, and that way fits my rose joints, and I don't have to do any painting. I haven't cracked any of the paint, so yeah, not so bad in the end. Simple as the So as you can see, I had to just put a bit of a kink in it. But these fit nicely now. So that was a fairly easy fix. For a minute I was thinking I was going to have to cut them off and re-weld them on, and there was some serious swearing going on.